right, Conrad, it's interesting to know that the German main stock index called the DAX 30 has just turned 30 years old. I'll track this index briefly for us. And would there be a tweaking of its components anytime soon?
Well, the performance has been quite impressive. Since its creation, the German DAX has returned about 8% per year if you invested in the DAX at the beginning of its existence. And this despite, of course, significant upswings and downswings. We've seen the Asia crisis last century. We've seen, the bubble burst, the tech bubble burst at the beginning of this century. We've seen 9/11, all those factors dragged the German market down significantly. But if investors stayed in, it paid off eventually. Will the DAX be tweaked? Not the DAX itself. The stock exchange operator is thinking currently about having more components in the DAX because it wants it to represent the German economy a bit better. But there's no time schedule yet. What is being planned is reshuffling and tweaking, if you like, of the DAX family. Let's not forget, we do not only have the German DAX 30 index, we also have the mid-cap index, MDAX, the small-cap index, SDAX, and the tech DAX, which contains high technology firms. And those will be tweaked. In the future, it will be allowed that company will be listed in both the tech DAX and also in one of the large cap, mid cap, or small cap indices. And this means that especially the MDAX and the SDAX and also the tech DAX will become larger in future. And all this combined is hopefully meant to attract investors more because it is designed so that it represents the German economy a bit better.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Conrad. Well, I guess the week has just started, and I'm sure we have quite a lot to chew in the course of the week. Enjoy the rest of the day. In the U.S., stock index futures slumped ahead of Monday's open as markets across the globe saw red on the back of rampant trade tensions. Around 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow futures tumbled 155 points, indicating a negative open of 144.41 points. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 futures indicated sharp losses at the start to their respective trading sessions. Fears surrounding a potential trade war between the U.S. and other major economies continue to plague market sentiment around the world. The U.S. administration is reportedly looking into drafting a bill that would allow the White House to unilaterally increase trade tariffs without congressional consent. While trade and political tensions are likely to top the agenda today, data scheduled for publication includes the Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, followed by Manufacturing ISM report on business and construction spending at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Herman Miller is scheduled to publish its earnings after the bell. And in Asia, markets closed sharply lower today, the first trading day of the second half of the year, as heavy losses were recorded in China. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225 sank 2.21%. Losses were broad-based, with retailers in the food sector among the worst performers. Over in Seoul, the Kospi fell 2.34% to end at 2,271.54. Elsewhere, the Shanghai Composite dropped 2.42%, while the smaller Shenzhen Composite lost 1.58% for the day. Blue chip companies recorded larger declines, with the CSI 300 index sinking almost 3%. In Australia, the S&P ASX 200 index closed lower by 0.27%. And away from the markets and back here, Britain and Nigeria are exploring ways to list Naira-denominated bonds on the London Stock Exchange to help fund infrastructure projects in the West African country. This is according to the City of London Lord's Mayor Charles Bowman. Charles Bowman, who acts as an ambassador for the British capital's financial district, made the comments during a three-day visit to Nigeria, during which he held talks with the Vice President, Trade Minister, and representatives of both Nigeria's stock exchange and the central bank. Nigeria, once a darling for frontier investors, suffered its worst recession in a generation in 2016 after the price of its main export, oil, collapsed. It has since recovered, but growth is fragile, with dilapidated infrastructure holding it back. His comments come after Britain in February said its export finance agency would add the Naira to its list of pre-approved currencies, allowing it to provide financing for transactions with Nigerian businesses denominated in the local currency. And the International Monetary Fund expects Benin's economy to grow 6% this year, up from 5.6% in 2017, as cotton production reaches record highs and the economy of neighboring Nigeria strengthens. The fund also says that it had made available about $22.4 million to Benin as part of a 3-year financial assistance program. Benin's raw cotton output for the 2017-2018 season is projected to increase 28% from the previous season to a record 578,000 tons. And Kenya's economy expanded at an annualized rate of 5.7% in the first quarter of this year, compared with 4.8% in the same period of last year. Data from the Statistics Office shows that the agriculture sector expanded by 5.2% compared to 1% in the same period last year. The East African nation has had good rains this year, in contrast with droughts in the first quarter of last year. Farming, including tea and coffee exports, accounts for close to a third of economic output. The Finance Ministry expects growth to rebound to 5.8% this year after 4.9% in 2017. And Angola plans a new system for selling rough diamonds as part of President João Lourenço's efforts to increase investment, production and government revenue. Diamond producers say they have struggled to make money in Angola due to a marketing system that obliged them to sell at below international prices, leading them to largely shun one of the world's most exciting prospects for the precious stones. Sub-Saharan Africa's third largest economy is trying to diversify away from oil, and the decree says that there was a considerable difference between the country's potential and the industry's actual impact on the national economy. We'll take a break and we will be back in a moment. To stay with us.